Let's speed up combat a little bit, and in that spirit, let's try to speed up this video. This is something we did at the end of my last campaign for a couple sessions, and we did it all through my friend Phil's campaign, and I thought it sped up combat, all the players thought it sped up combat, and Phil thought it sped up combat, and that is, let your players track the damage they've done to the monsters. Now, this is information the players already have. If they wanted to, they could keep a running tally of how much damage they've done. They already think this doesn't break immersion in any sense because they're already thinking in terms of dice and damage and numbers and math. They're not thinking purely in terms of narrative. So we've already got them on the, I did 16 points of damage. And how much damage did you do? Wow, we've done a lot of damage to this thing. I don't know exactly the number, but we have a ballpark. Well, no, I'm saying let them actually track how much total damage each monster has done. And the way we did it was, at low levels, we used just a d20. We would put a d20 next to the monster, and we would increment it, and you could look at the d20, and every time the monster moved, we would move the d20 with the monster. And then as the monsters got nastier and had more than 20 hit points, we would use percentile dice, or we would just write on the battle mat how much damage each monster had taken. And then the players just, every once in a while, the dungeon master says, hey, how much damage have you done to that orc? And the players say, we've done 16 damage. And the dungeon master knows the orc has 24 hit points or whatever, and goes, okay, fine, and moves on. So you, the dungeon master, are just checking, has the total overcome the monster's threshold? You don't track the monster hit points. You don't do the math. You crowdsource it. And that is so much more efficient and freeing. Remember, there are more players than there are you. And I found the players liked tracking the monster, the damage they've done to the monsters. They like knowing how much progress they have made. And again, it's information they already have. Now, this can be tricky depending on the edition of Dungeons & Dragons you're playing, but luckily the current edition of Dungeons & Dragons, 5th edition, does not have incremental damage reduction. There's only one flavor of damage reduction in 5th edition, and that is damage resistance. If a monster has damage resistance, that means it's taking half damage from all the attacks. In earlier editions, you could have damage resistant 5 or 10 or 3 sometimes or 15. So different monsters would have different math regarding how much they were reducing incoming damage, but not in 5th edition. In 5th edition, it's always half damage. Well, in that instance, what you can do is you can do a little bit of math and just add some hit points to your monster's total. In other words, the players do 10 points of damage to the monster, and they record, now this monster has 10 more damage to it, but you know that monster has damage reduction to whatever that type of damage is, and that half of 10 is 5, so you just make a note that this monster now has 5 more hit points. And that is mathematically identical to the way we normally do damage reduction, and not that many monsters have damage reduction. So you're drastically reducing the mathematical overhead on the Dungeon Master, and again, the players like tracking this information, I found. And we are expected as Dungeon Masters to describe the effects of attacks to the players, such that if a creature is immune to damage, we narrate that to the players. We tell the players, wow, he doesn't seem at all affected by your fireball spell, for instance. And the players go, is it immune to fire? Well, in fact, that is literally what I just said. So yes, or you might say, yeah, no, you connect and your weapon does some damage, but it doesn't seem like it does as much as it normally does. Now, in earlier editions, that opened up a whole bunch of, well, how much damage reduction does it have? Not in 5th edition. In 5th edition, that means it's taking half damage. We're already narrating these mathematical effects to the players. Now we're just going to give them the tools to track this stuff on their own. I was surprised when we did this at how easy it was and how much it sped up combat and how freeing it was both for me and for Phil. Phil loved it. I loved it. So maybe this isn't your cup of tea, but remember, the players already have this information. They already know how much damage have we done. All you're doing is just checking every once in a while to say, hey, how much damage have you done? Oh, okay. And just move on. That's it. That's the whole video. I just wanted to give you folks this tool because it worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you. I suggest that if you try it, that you will probably like it. And I just thought, let's make a short video about something, making combat faster, something you're going to be wrestling with as long as you're playing D&D, because Dungeons & Dragons is at heart, it's basically a war game. So the sheer amount of information a given character has to track or a given monster has to track is, orders of magnitude greater than lots of other games out there. And so some players like that stuff, and typically it's not that big a deal from like 1st to 5th level, but eventually it becomes kind of tedious. And this was, I thought, a huge step forward in the constant struggle to speed up D&D combat. Not sure what the next video will be. I think we might do another video on skill challenges, because every time I do a video on skill challenges, I get basically 2 responses. About 80% of people are like, oh, this is great. I really like this. Thanks for sharing this. I get it now. I used it. It was successful. And then about 20% of people are like, I still do not understand what skill challenges are. So I went on my subreddit and said, hey folks, if you have any scenarios that you would like to see a skill challenge designed for, let me know. And I'll take the 3 most upvoted answers and I will actually design skill challenges for them and probably write it up in a document and upload it. And you'll be able to download it in the comments or the doobly-doo to the video. And I think that might be the next video we'll see. There'll be some videos after this one, by the way, where you can see us kind of putting stuff together in the new office. I want to make sure, even though I like recording little, vignettes at our new office, I want to make sure that when those go up, it's after a running the game video. Oh, you know what? I think the next video might be about something completely unrelated to Dungeons and Dragons and gaming and nerd culture in general. We'll see. Stay tuned. Also, this Friday, June 8th at 10 a.m. from 10 a.m. to noon Pacific time, I will be live with Adam Colville on his Twitch channel. There'll be a link in the doobly-doo, and we're just going to hang out and talk about RPG design, probably, and gaming culture. And I don't know that we even actually have or really want any kind of agenda. I just think it would be neat. I really like Adam. I like the way that guy thinks, and I think it's just going to be a lot of fun to hang out with him, sort of unscripted, and just talk about RPG stuff and nerd stuff and see what we end up fighting about. That's it, folks. Until next time, peace out.